liked her own way. And you're gonna start here center.
Right.
But once upon a time, there was a princess who was 6 feet tall, who liked her own way, and who loved to wrestle. She also liked to drive forklift trucks and had 3 of her own. Whenever there was a royal parade, she would ride behind a company of soldiers in her green and purple striped forklift with a coronet on each side. The king got very cross about it, but the princess said,
If I can't drive my forklift, I won't go.
and because she was such a good wrestler, the king was too scared to disagree with her. One day, the king sent for the princess to meet him. And when she finally showed up, he said,
It's about time. Where have you been?
Greasing the axle of the blue forklift truck.
This can't go on. When will you stop messing around with all those dirty machines, Ermentrude? You're nearly 16 and you need a husband. I must have a successor.
I'll succeed you, father. I'd love to be king.
You can't be a king. It's not allowed.
Why not?
I don't know. I don't pass the laws around here. Anyway, you can, and that's that. You have to have a husband, and you won't get a husband if you don't change your ways. To get a husband, you need to be enchantingly beautiful, dainty, and weak.
Well, I'm not. I'm nothing to look at. I'm 6 feet tall. And this morning, did you hear? I wrestled 16 guards at once and beat them all.
Ermentrude, there will be no more wrestling and no more forklift trucks, and we will have a contest to find you a husband.
I don't want a husband. You just wait. I'll ruin your stupid old contest. You're a rotten, mean, old pig.
the contest began the very next day. 72 eligible princes flew in by helicopter. The princess sulked as she saw them arrive.
Stupid way. Not one of them even pilots his own helicopter.
Sit here, my dear.
It's okay.
Top of the page.
Sit here, my dear, and behave yourself. The first competition will be of height. As you know, the princess is a very tall girl, and she can't have a husband shorter than herself.
Why can't I have a shorter husband?
Be quiet, you just can't.
When the Lord Chamberlain had finished measuring them all, there were 48 princes left in the competition.
The second competition will be that of disposition. The princess has a slightly hasty temper. She cannot have a husband who cannot stand up to her. So each of you will make a face and insult the princess.
The first prince stepped forward. The Princess Ermentrude made a repulsive face, and the prince burst into tears. Most of the other princes followed the same way, but one stuck out his tongue and called her silly crybaby, and another called her squiggleworm, which made her giggle, and so on, until there were 7 princes left in the contest.
The third competition will be that of strength. The princess cannot have a weaker husband, so you will all line up and wrestle her.
Why can't I have a weaker husband?
You can't. Just you be quiet. You just can't.
As the princes were being given their instructions, the princess noticed that at the back of the room there stood a short man covered in helicopter engine oil.
Helicopter engine oil. Just the sort of man I like.
Just then, the short man caught her eye, winked, and carefully mouthed,
Choose the 7th. Don't beat him.
The princess liked him and wanted to please him, so she nodded and then stepped forward to begin the competition. Crash! The first prince hit the mat. The next 5 princes followed. Crash! 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 When she got to the 7th one, she glanced over at the helicopter mechanic, who nodded. time in her life, she lost a wrestling match. The crowd let out a stupendous cheer. Hooray!
I award you the hand of the princess and half my kingdom.
The seventh prince fainted, dead away. A helicopter mechanic stepped forward.
Majesty, I am the Prince's helicopter pilot and aide. Prince Florizel is overcome with shock and gratitude. It's not every day that he wins the hand of such a beautiful, charming, talented young lady. But of course, he must have the blessing of his father before the ceremony can take place.
Quite. The princess will fly to your kingdom tomorrow to meet him.
So, the next morning, the princess, who insisted on piloting herself and the king, flew in the royal helicopter to the palace in the next kingdom.
I'm not marrying that silly prince, and I'm just flying over there to tell him so.
When they landed, the prince's mechanic was standing on the tarmac. An older man in his pajamas came running across the field.
Put down that oil can, you ninny! Don't you know this is a royal princess?
Of course, I know she's a princess, Father, and I'm going to marry her.
What?
I am Prince Florizel. The other one was an imposter. See, I didn't want to go to the contest, so I persuaded my mechanic to trade places with me. Then I saw Princess Ermentrude making faces and shouting insults and throwing princes to the ground. I knew she was the one person I could fall in love with.
Really?
Truly. Now, come and see my mechanical digger.
And so, Princess Ermentrude and Prince Florizel were married in tremendous splendor. The princess drove herself to the church in a beautiful, bright red forklift, and the television cameras whirred as Prince Florizel stood on tiptoe to kiss her on the church steps. And their magnificent wedding cake was shaped like a giant oil can. And they both